On New Year's Eve, Rafael Nadal reached Melbourne Park and he said, everyone who were there, don't tell anyone that I'm here. No one thought at that point, in a month's time, this injury-ravaged Spanish superstar was going to become the first to claim 21st Grand Slam. You are listening to Turning Point Podcast with me, Rika Roy. Let's start the story at this moment of the win. Rafael Nadal, ecstatic after a highly emotional, high-octane game. This is what he had to say.
It's just amazing. No, being honest, 1 month and a half ago, I didn't know if I will be able to be back on the tour playing tennis again. And today I am here in front of all of you having this trophy with me. And you really don't know how much I fight to be here.
I am joined on this podcast by captain of India's Billie Jean King Cup, Vishal Uppal, who's also a former Davis Cup player for India. Vishal, welcome to Turning Point Podcast. Medvedev, world number 2, was up against Rafael Nadal. What really would you say was the turning point in the match?
Thank you for having me, Rika. I think the turning point definitely was in the third set when Nadal was serving 2 sets to love down, 2-3 love 40. And from there, things just really turned for the better for Rafael Nadal. And I must say, Medvedev didn't really play his best tennis post that. But, just the way Nadal fought back and the gutsy performance that he gave, I mean, you expect that from Nadal. But then to see him do it over and over again is just a treat to watch.
Nadal, 10 years, his senior, and I'm talking about Medvedev here. Do you think at some point he would have noticed a shortcoming, so to say, in Medvedev's repertoire? Maybe, his limited skill up front?
Yeah, I mean, Rika, for me, it was quite a peculiar match because after the third set, almost, Medvedev kind of just started hitting way too many drop shots and that kind of surprised me a lot because he's a guy who's known not for his finesse, but for his brute power and a guy who can just hit you off the court. So to see Medvedev make changes like that was quite intriguing for me. And on the other hand, if you look at Nadal, he played quite a smart match. I don't think I've seen Nadal slice his backhand as much as he did in this match to, kind of change up the pace and keep the ball a little lower for Medvedev when he could. So it was quite an intriguing match tactically for those who love watching tennis. It's a good case study to understand how you can change your spins and variation and stuff like that to, offset your opponent's rhythm in one way or the other. But yeah, it was all in all, it was a very intriguing match and I guess it was the survival of the fittest in the end, mentally and physically.
Would you then say it was Medvedev's brute power versus Nadal's skill and Nadal's tactics that really came into play on the night?
Yeah, partly so. I mean, I think also Medvedev did look physically a little uncomfortable. Something about his thighs might be bothering him, or maybe he tightened up. Something of that nature must have happened to him. We saw him taking medical time out in the middle of the match and getting the trainer to work on his thigh muscle. So maybe he was feeling it physically, where he realized he cannot grind it out with Nadal, which actually should have been a plus point for Medvedev, considering he's 10 years younger and fit and faster. So yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting in that sense to note how one would have expected the longer this match went, Rafael Nadal would have been the one struggling physically, considering he's 35, but it was the younger guy who seemed to be, struggling physically in this match.
Interesting you say that because we know longer rallies means there are greater chances of Nadal coming out on the top. And in the second set, we also saw one rally of 40 shots as well. Vishal, let's talk about a few intriguing bits in that match. Now, at one point, Nadal requested for sawdust, something we would, associate Ivan Lendl with, because he would then use it to dry a moist grip.
Yeah, I mean, barring Wimbledon, we don't really see that happening anywhere else. But, considering the fact the way Rafael Nadal sweats, I mean, you can clearly see He sweats a lot. So for him to, ask for it probably was a smart decision because, your racket cannot keep slipping. So as an athlete, you have to try and do what you have to do to try and, be in the best possible situation to hit the ball. So I think it was a smart move from Rafael Nadal to ask for that product.
And that really speaks about the temperatures they were playing in, the exhaustion that both the men experienced. But Medvedev, all young, fresh legs, he took the first set in 42 minutes. Nadal was pushed. Medvedev made him sweat, ran all over the court. But it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's the mental tenacity that really stood out for Rafael Nadal.
Yeah, I have to agree with you because that's what has differentiated him with most players on the tour, over his career. And I think mental tenacity and experience. I think Rafael Nadal really used all his experience to overcome Medvedev. But, that's what Rafael Nadal is known for, his mental tenacity. And that's what I keep telling all the youngsters also. Stop looking at their forehands and backhands and start looking at their attitude, start looking at their intensity, what they bring, the energy they bring to playing tennis. And there's so much you can learn from that because, look, everybody can hit forehands and backhands and, it's not rocket science. But the human side of it, the never say die attitude of Rafael Nadal, I think that's what has, separated him from the pack all these years.
At the end of the match, in fact, Medvedev asked Nadal, are you tired? He said it was a match that was a very, very high level and it was insane. We'll hear Medvedev at this point before we get into the discussion further.
Tough to talk after 5 hours 30 and losing, but I want to congratulate Rafa because what he did today, I was amazed. Especially, during the match, I tried just to play tennis, but after the match, I just asked him, are you tired? Because it was insane. I think the level was very high. You raised your level after 2 sets for the 21st Grand Slam. I thought you were going to get tired, and maybe you did just a little, but still won the match. So you're an amazing champion. I think you guys have a good rivalry still. It's not over yet, but congrats, and was unbelievable. And congrats to your team, of course.
Yeah, have been one of the most emotional matches on my tennis career, and share the court with you is just an honor. So all the best in the future.
Vishal, the tournament's AI had given Medvedev 96% chance of winning in the third set when he was 3-2, 40 love up on Nadal's serve. Would you say these AIs and the rational analysts, so to say, didn't factor in the intangibles?
Yes, and the biggest intangible is the human mind, Rika. Stats, they hide more than they reveal, and you can never discount the spirit of a fighter, and that's what Rafael Nadal did to prove all these AIs wrong. All of us who have played competitive sport, we understand that, the AI cannot calculate for the human, resolve, the human tenacity, the human intensity. And while on, paper, if somebody looked at the score, it pretty much looked like the writing was on the wall and Medvedev was going to win in 3 sets. But AI cannot calculate a man's fighting abilities and how they can really come back. So I think, for all those who watch this match, don't look at what the AI has to say. Look at how Rafael Nadal responded to being down 2-3 love 40 in the third set.
The other thing that really stood out for me was how Medvedev was rattled, complaining to the umpire John Bloom about shouts from the crowd. Do you think what was happening out there was a little unfair towards the Russian?
Well, I wouldn't call it unfair because you can't control the crowd. The crowd has its own favorites. I, of course, do not endorse the fact that some of the fans were being disruptive while Medvedev was serving or about to hit a ball. That is just not in good taste and good spirit. But other than that, I think the crowd has its right to cheer for whoever they wish to. And on this night, it was clearly evident that it was Medvedev was playing against Rafael Nadal and 98% of the crowd in the Rod Laver Arena. So I think that's something an athlete has to block out of their mind. I mean, it's like playing Davis Cup, except he was playing Davis Cup in Australia against the Spaniards. Because when you play Davis Cup, you have people cheering against you, passing all sorts of, snarly remarks, and you just have to learn how to blank out everything and just continue playing. So I think some of the crowd was unruly, and it was unfortunate that they were being disruptive. But overall, I think the crowd has a right to cheer for whoever they wish to.
Vishal, at the end of the match, Rafael Nadal said it was the most emotional match of his career, most emotional 3 weeks of his career. But in an interview just before the final, he said that it was all about winning this Australian Open.
Without a doubt, have been probably one of the most emotional months in my tennis career, and having the huge support that I received during that 3 weeks is just gonna stay in my heart for the rest of my life. So many thanks.
Now, how does an athlete really keep these emotions under check? He knows that he's on the brink of a huge milestone, but at the same time, he has to go and win this tournament, this match, this point. How does one take it one at a time?
Well, I don't think an athlete keeps that emotion in check. I think that athletes can feed off that emotion and give their heart and soul into what they're trying to do, which is win that particular match. I mean, and that emotion can go either way, Rika. I mean, it can either spur you on, it can really push you to elevate your levels, or you can crumble under the expectations and the pressure of that. So I think Rafael Nadal has mastered the art of using that emotion to his benefit, and that was clear to see how he would just not give in come what may, no matter what the score was. He kept fighting, he kept running. Every time you thought, okay, now this guy's getting tired, he just kept running for one extra ball. Case in point, that 40-ball rally that you mentioned a little earlier. It's unheard of in men's tennis. A 40-ball rally with the power and speed these guys are hitting at, it's unheard of. So, so it's how you use that energy. That energy can either uplift you or it can crush you. It just depends on how you utilize it to the best of your ability.
Vishal, now that Nadal has broken the 3-way tie with Federer and Djokovic, would you think that at the back of his mind, he is now thinking that the race isn't over? Come May 22nd, I'll be back on the court again, and the number 22 will be my top priority?
No, I think, Rika, winning another French Open will be his top priority. Number 22 is just a byproduct of that, because he'll want to continue his dominance on the clay courts, which is his favorite Grand Slam. So, the top players are at the top because they, more often than not, don't let these things affect them. They just want to play, they just want to win. For them, it's about winning that particular title. It's not so much about, will this be number 2? Because then that's added pressure you're putting on yourself. And these guys are masters at not putting that pressure on themselves.
For the first time when I heard about Muller's syndrome was 2003, and that was after Rafael Nadal had won his first French Open. From there, 18 years on, he's still winning Grand Slams. Can you tell us what does it really take to overcome such degenerative disease and still be here at the top of this game?
It's called human spirit. I mean, his spirit is second to none. He is relentless. His desire to succeed at what he's doing is unbelievable. And I think that is what has spurred him on, no matter what obstacles he's faced in his life, whether it is this, whether it's been, tendinitis in his knees or any other injuries. It's the never say die attitude, because if you're willing to wake up every morning and go to work, that's the only way you're going to chase and fulfill your dreams. And I think Rafael Nadal has been doing it, and he's a living example and inspiration to everyone else as to how they can wake up every morning and go and give their best and try and achieve their dreams.
Let me ask you one final question, Vishal. Do you see him get back to world number 1?
I mean, yeah, of course. If he keeps winning, why not? But I think it's going to be tougher and tougher for him. I think the younger generation is ready to really start taking the mantle on from the big three, and I think it's going to keep getting tougher for the likes of Nadal and Djokovic to try and ignore the guys like Medvedev, Zverev. Dominic Thiem will be back soon. Shapovalov. All these guys are hungry and they're knocking on the doors now. They're close to beating these guys, and the switch will happen soon.
Well, thank you very, very much, Vishal, for joining me on the podcast and sharing those wonderful lights, wonderful thoughts of yours. And I hope that Rafael Nadal fans will be hoping that number 21 done, number 22 is round the corner this year. Thank you very much.